There are two ways you can watercolor paint. The first way is called wet on dry, which is probably what you've always done in the past. So wet on dry means you get your brush wet in the water, you get your paint, and you paint, okay? There's also another way you can watercolor paint. It's called wet on wet. It's good for when you're doing large areas. So the first thing I want you to do in this painting is I want you to do a watercolor wash on the bottom underneath the horizon line, the ocean part of your water. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna choose one of these blues and you're gonna use a lot of water and just a little bit of paint. And I want you to get your page wet with water first. So you're gonna paint your paper with water. And I'm only gonna do the first half just to save time, but I'm making sure my paint, I'm making sure my paper is wet. And I know you can't tell that it's wet. You might be able to see that it's a little bit shiny. Get it completely wet, and then we're gonna add paint. So this is called wet on wet. Now, I only want you to use a little bit of paint, and you're gonna make a really light layer of blue over the whole thing. You don't want it dark because we're gonna let it dry, and like you're gonna paint your turtle's not gonna be blue. So, but I wanna make sure you have color, just a light wash. This brush is really tiny. It's easier when you have a bigger brush, but we're gonna use what we have. So you're painting, hopefully you can see how super duper light that is. You're gonna paint your whole, now that's way too dark. I forgot to put water down there, so no problem. I'm just gonna get more water and I'm gonna spread it out. So if you get too much on there like I did, no big deal. Just spread it out with more water. I'm gonna keep adding water to this so it's not quite as dark blue. Also, I'm using the side of my brush, or I wouldn't use the toes because you kind of have to fill up a big space. So I kind of lay it on its side and I paint. Okay, we're gonna pretend that this whole thing is done. You wanna let this dry, okay? Because if you paint the turtle green, the blue and the green are gonna mix together. So that's why I want you to do this first, because while this is drying, you're going to paint the top half. Now, I'm gonna turn mine upside down so I don't stick my hand in the wet paint. Now, for this, you get to start using these fun colors. You can leave some of your iceberg white. You could leave, a few of these spaces white. The rest you can do blue, green, you can mix the colors. So now I'm gonna just do wet on dry, and I'm gonna try this blue right here, and just very carefully, because I want to stay inside the lines, I'm gonna start painting. Now, with watercolors, they all blend together. So this, if I wanted this to stay like perfectly turquoise, I couldn't paint anything next to it because it will bleed over. Now, I don't care if they mix a little bit. So, and that's kind of a purple, but that's okay. Make sure you're only using cool colors for the iceberg: blue, green, and purple. I'm gonna leave these two white because I like how it looks. And this is the same blue I used for the bottom. I just used less water, more paint, so it's this darker color. And of course, feel free to mix colors on your paper, not in here. So let's talk about that really quick. Every time I choose a new color, I have to wash my brush. If you do not wash your brush, all these colors are going to turn black. It's not pretty. You have to wash your brush every single time, okay? Now, if you want to mix colors, absolutely mix colors, but do it on your paper. So I'm washing. I'm gonna get this light blue again. I'm gonna paint a little bit, but I wanna see what happens when I add this kind of like aqua green. So I can't just take this brush and put it in there. I have to wash. And I'm gonna get some of this and I'm gonna blend these two colors together to see what I get. Now I do want you to experiment with blending colors. So now I'm getting a new color. What do I have to do? Wash my brush. Let's try, I don't know, I really like this one. Is that the same one I did? It's kind of the same, so I'm gonna add maybe a little bit of purple. So I need to wash, just like drop some purple in there. Wash. Okay. Now for the mountains, what I like to do, since it's cold and there's snow, I like to do them like a frosty kind of blue. So if you had mountains, except I want it lighter than that, so I'm gonna add more water. If you got too much color, no big deal, just go grab some water and kind of smooth it out. And then this is the snow-capped mountain, so I'm gonna leave the snow white. And then this one I'm gonna make a little darker blue. So it's two different colors. And you can see this is still wet, so some of the blue is gonna leak in there, but I think it looks nice. Okay, so let me turn it right side up so you can kind of, there's my mountains and you can see where it kind of leaks into each other. But you'll find out, you'll do some experimenting. When this is dry, like this turtle is dry, the bottom half is not dry. You can start painting all your little, I can already tell I got too much water in there. And I'm gonna blend some little bit of brown in there. Maybe I'll do some orange. Play around, see what you get. Use this time to experiment. Okay, and then there's one more thing I want to show you. When you're painting underneath the water, if you have to have a lot of water. So I'm gonna add some more paint here too. Spots where you have a lot of water, it does not work unless it's really wet. It's gotta be really shiny. You can sprinkle some salt, just a little bit, and then let it sit there. I'm gonna add like a little bit more water just to make sure we're good. And you'll see what happens. It makes this fun, crystallized kind of pattern. Once again, the key is a lot of water. If it does not have a lot of water, it's not gonna work. And I'm not sure why this isn't, I'm not seeing, this might be the wrong kind of salt. But we're gonna let it sit, see how it turns out. All right, let's, real quick, I know you guys wanna paint. Don't mix the colors, rule number 1. You might remember this from last year. No jacuzzis. When you go like this, really crazy and make bubbles, it splashes water everywhere, it makes a mess, gets on your neighbor's paper. No jacuzzis, no tapping. Instead of tapping, you just wipe. Okay, that's all.